Hey there everybody, welcome back to the Painted Lady Coaching by Amanda Douglas. I'm Amanda Douglas. I'm your healing bestie that's here to help you alchemize your trauma and reclaim your identity for healthier and happier relationships. So the topic of today's video is going to be the fear that a lot of survivors have once they leave a toxic or narcissistic abusive relationship. And that particular fear is getting into another relationship that is similar. This is a very common fear, and for good reason, of course. I can say this is something that I also definitely had an issue with when I was considering new relationships and starting to meet other people and opening myself up to meeting people, even just in like low stakes, like friendship dynamics and whatnot, because of the hypervigilance that kind of comes along with the trauma and the impact of these relationships. You're always on the lookout for, what the next threat might be. And if a threat is even there at all with any of the interactions with the people that you come into contact with. So it can be extremely overwhelming, and it's also completely normal. It's completely a part of the process and to be expected, but not to worry. This is something that you can entirely move past. You just need a little bit of tools and a little bit of patience and self-compassion. So just to reiterate, it is very common just to have that fear of getting into another toxic relationship after experiencing one, and especially if it is to the extent of being like a textbook narcissistic abusive cycle type of relationship. Just having the experience of trauma bonds and manipulation and having your trust absolutely just bent out and violated will absolutely just have you trying to see any kind of signs and red flags of anyone you may come into contact with. I know one of the ways that I took a huge hit in my sense of confidence is because I really felt confidence and shame, because I really was just like, how did I not see that this person was like this? How did I not pick up on the signs? What was wrong with me that led me to be with this person and even just get entangled with this person? How can I even trust myself to not get into this type of situation again? How can I even trust myself to choose a healthy partner? But again, it's all of that is our brain just trying to protect us from all of that. So how do we give ourselves the tools and the knowledge to combat this fear of entering into another toxic relationship? So the first line of defense that you should have is just understanding the signs in and of themselves of what a toxic person might display when coming into contact with someone that they may be interested in. And I did do a whole video on the narcissistic abusive cycle and toxic relationship cycles and how that tends to go, and some red flags to look out for. So if you want to refer to that video to where I kind of deep dive into a little bit of the tactics that tend to happen. But for the sake of this video, I would say some telltale ones are love bombing, and that was one that I definitely overlooked because I just thought, well, this person's just genuinely being nice. But the thing of it is when you have somebody that is overgiving, especially in a way that is incongruent to where you are in your relationship with this person, that is a huge telltale red flag. There really is nothing wrong with someone that just wants to give and to be kind. However, take note of what it is and how they're doing it, and is it appropriate or congruent to the situation or the relationship that you currently have with this person. If it isn't, then that is really something to pay attention to. And I'll even give my own personal example. When I first met my abuser, some things that they kind of offered or did gift to me pretty early on. They bought me a brand new TV that did cost a couple $100s. I think it was about a $300 TV. They bought me a record that was a $200 record without me knowing. It was just something that I saw in a store one day, and I was like, oh, that's super cool, and thought nothing of it, and they ended up buying it for me. They bought me a ring that I really liked, and mind you, it wasn't too expensive, but it was, I guess, not really cheap either. Still was a little inappropriate, but it's yeah. And they also, I think that first month, or maybe it was the second one, they insisted on helping me with my rent because I was a little bit behind, I was a little bit behind on some bills, and I was a little bit short on cash, so they offered to help me with my rent and insisted. So I was just like, okay. And truthfully, I, again, was a person that definitely lacked the boundaries back then. And like hindsight, like all of that should have been a red flag. But because I was a little uninformed and also lacked boundaries, it happened. And I didn't really see that for what it was. And some other things are like excessive control. And sometimes in the beginning, like this could be like seemingly innocent, but any kind of like little jealousies, anytime like your time or attention is like diverted away from them, definitely pay attention to that. And I will say this over and over again, always trust your internal gut instinct and just listen to that inner voice, because a lot of the time it will tell you when something isn't quite right. And even like I said early on, it's like there were things, there were hints, there were signs, and I was just like, well, maybe this, maybe that. It's just a little bit of like a lame excuse for all of it, when really like my initial instinct was correct. If you now have the experience under your belt of a toxic or narcissistic partner, you now kind of have these to sort of play off of. It's like if you start to see these behavioral patterns in another person, take note of that and don't take that lightly. It's definitely saved me from some situations. And not to worry, like if you're not going to lose out by paying attention to those signs and paying attention to what your inner voice is telling you, which is a great segue into my next point, which is rebuilding the trust with yourself and your intuition. This is another one that I kind of did a video on already, where I kind of went very in depth on with like self-trust. But just to expand a little bit more, survivors, they also do lose trust with their own judgment. Very common because, like, again, gaslighting is such a prevalent thing, and just general like manipulation and put downs that can happen a lot within these abusive dynamics. And meditation and journaling are two things that I would just highly suggest with reconnecting with yourself and assessing your self-awareness and getting in touch with your intuition. Like just generally journaling about your feelings, just kind of like doing a brain dump and just like stream of consciousness type of thing, and even just assessing your responses to certain situations and just kind of getting it all out. Or just to jot down, check in, or even just meditate on how you are feeling in the moment, and just kind of getting back into your body to assess that discomfort and just sit with it and lean into it rather than just ignoring it or trying to like shove it somewhere. Because trust me, when you have any bit of discomfort and you just push it somewhere else rather than like sitting with it and like leaning into it, that's when you get into trouble. I promise you. That is when you get into trouble. And boundaries. Can't stress it enough. I really can't. And you will probably hear me talk about it to the point where you get tired of me, but I really can't stress how important that is in any relationship. And a lot of the times, a lack of boundaries is how we get into these dynamics that are just toxic and abusive. And again, it's like one of the things that I stress a lot because it keeps everybody safe. And it is something that I work on with people within coaching as a part of my program. But how boundaries keep everybody safe is because when you stand on your boundaries and you are sure and solid in yourself of what they are, and you're in touch with yourself about your boundaries, then when you place them, it's going to keep the right people around and push the wrong people away. And really what I mean when I say is push the wrong people away, it's just going to weed out whatever is not for you. But it's also to have healthy boundaries with yourself as well, which is not rushing into a relationship too soon before you've worked out maybe a lot of the patterns that you have maybe been playing out, and like before you've really gained a lot of self-awareness and worked on areas of opportunity. Also communicating your needs very clearly and standing on your business, and checking in and seeing how other people respond to them, and saying no when you need to, and observing how people respond to that. Because again, when people respect that, that's a great sign. When people don't respect that and push back, that's something to pay attention to. And I will stress again that it is important to take the time to heal, like after you have been in like a toxic dynamic. You do need that time to recover. And I don't think I know like very many people who are like eager to rush into another thing, like after dealing with such a like heavy thing. But I guess everybody's different, I suppose. But it's like for me, like I didn't even want to look at men for a while after that. Yeah, I took the time to really work with, you know, some professionals in where I felt like some of my blind spots are. So I spent a lot of time doing like boundary work with a therapist. I spent a lot of time reading self-help books and just kind of tending to the PTSD symptoms that followed after this. I did a lot of the work and a lot of the self-care that is necessary, because again, that time is very needed to reconnect with yourself, reassess your values, and understand where your areas of opportunity are, so that way you can get closer to yourself and therefore find the person that is best fit for you once that time comes. But also, it's just important to understand who you are, since it's likely that you've had yourself taken from you from being with a toxic person. Because having your identity ripped away from you is one of the most like painful things that you can experience. So really getting solid in that again is going to be one of the most important things you can do for yourself. And on the flip side of that, it's like also, I've said this before, but don't be surprised that like once you do get into a relationship, and especially when it's like a beautiful and healthy one, you're still going to have moments where you get triggered and maybe you are brought to confront some of the things within yourself again, and maybe from like a new perspective, or some other things are uncovered. And again, the reason why I say that is just because you enter in a new relationship, they're serving a mirror for you and you're serving a mirror for them. So there's just gonna be more things that crop up and things that you may bring out and uncover in each other, and that's totally okay. And that work is very necessary to do alongside another person, because without that mirror, you probably won't be able to see it. It's great and amazing if you have a partner that is healthy and is also on their own like continuous healing and, you know, has a like a growth mindset. But the thing is, if you are getting into a relationship with a person who is not self-aware, has not started their healing journey, does not have a growth mindset, and is maybe just another toxic partner, it's just going to be another situation to where it's you guys are triggering each other, and it's just a bunch of chaos and a bunch of just toxic stuff that is just, again, like a negative feedback loop. But with the right person, like things are going to come up, but it's going to be a positive feedback loop and a very supportive relationship to where your growth is at the forefront. Having that for myself, and it's like having like a husband to where like that's my reality and that's our reality, like it's night and day difference, and it's quite a beautiful thing to have. And it's possible for you too, I promise you. Oh, and again, another beautiful segue into like my next talking point with building healthier relationships. There's going to be that mutual respect. There's going to be emotional safety. There's going to be trust. There's going to be clear communication and support. So those are always things and qualities and characteristics to look for in another person. And another thing that I have talked about a lot is like assessing your values. And that's also something that is part of like my method and my healing program, is helping people get in touch with their values and assessing their values, because that is going to let you know who you want to keep in your life, you know, romantic, platonic, professional, whoever. And again, it's going to help weed out the bullshit so much quicker. While you may understand what you want to avoid in relationships and what you don't want, it's just as important to understand what you do want, like the good that you want to see, which is part of that is understanding your values. When you have your values straight and you start to interact and meet other people, when the values also align with the other person's, or they're very like wonderfully complementary, then that's a good sign. And again, it's like there's no rush for anything. It's like definitely take your time when the other person involved is like okay with like not really having a timeline on anything and just kind of getting to know each other and enjoy each other and figure out if this is a good fit, then like that's a beautiful thing. Be cautious of anything that seems to be moving quite fast and intensely. So, and again, I want to reiterate that, you know, being afraid of being hurt again and getting into this situation is quite understandable, very valid, but it's manageable, especially when you have the right tools and the right mindset. And I wouldn't shame yourself or, you know, give yourself a hard time if like the fear doesn't entirely go away, because you could also use that in a more positive way just to at least help you, you know, with careful decision making, but again, not to be so like obsessive with that decision making, because if it becomes like a very obsessive thought process and mindset, then it can become a barrier to potential partners or potential friends or other opportunities in your life. And it's also good to check in with your support systems, as always, with these things, and even like your designated therapist or coach if you have one. While this fear is completely natural, like it does not have to be a barrier to new relationships and friendships and opportunities that you may encounter along the way. Trust your experiences, trust your growth, and trust your intuition. And remember, you have the power to choose healthy and loving, fulfilling relationships. And you absolutely deserve it. So I also want to hear from you guys. This is a safe space for discussion. Like, let me know, what fears do you have around healing? And let me know any of notable experiences or any other topics you might want to hear from me. I also do one-on-one coaching, and I have free consultations to see if we would be a good fit to work together. If you're interested, check the link in the description to see all of my services and free consultation booking. If you enjoyed today's video, like, subscribe, and share, so hopefully this can reach other people who may be struggling with the same topic. And on that note, I'm really glad you're here, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.